Hey guys, don't worry, this lesson's going to be a lot shorter than the last one. I apologize for how long it was. This lesson's all about math. So what are our basic operations that we like to use in math class? Well, we've got add, subtract, multiply, divide, those kinds of things. We can actually do a little bit more in here. Now, for example, we can just take two numbers, like let's say 5 and 2, and in our Python file, we can just say 5 plus 2, and then we can run it. F5 to run, and you can see right over here, it actually ran. Nothing happened because we didn't print anything to the screen. So let's throw this inside the print statement. So print 5 plus 2. Now what do you think is going to get printed to the screen? Well, let's see. Let's run it again. It actually printed 5 plus 2. Well, the problem is we have this 5 plus 2 in quotes, so we're going to take them out of quotes. Because remember, inside those quotation marks, it thinks that's a string. It's literally just going to print 5 plus 2, and we actually wanted to do the 5 plus 2 and print that to the screen. So let's run this one more time, see what it gives us. 7, because we know that 5 plus 2 is 7. So we can have adding. Let's see what else we can do. We can have subtracting. 5 minus 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. What other kinds of things can we do? Well, we can multiply. And to multiply, sort of like what we saw with the print statement earlier, multiply would be the star. 5 times 2, well, we know we should expect that to be a 10, so I'll run it. 5 times 2 is 10. And close this guy down out of the way. What else do we have here? Well, we've got divide. And divide is the slash, backslash, and we'll run it again. 5 divided by 2 should be 2.5, and you can see that it is. Now we've also got 5 to the power of 2, and the way we go to the power of is we do 2 stars. This means 5 raised to the power of 2, and 5 to the power of 2 would be 5 squared, or 25. So you can see that's 25. And we've got 2 that you don't see a whole lot in math class, but they're really, really handy in programming. Okay, and the first one is a percent sign. Now this doesn't mean 5% 2. This percent means modulus, and I will type that right here for you, modulus. Let's just run it and see what the answer is. 5 mod 2 is how we say it. 5 mod 2, the answer is 1. Okay, now to get the idea about this, we're going to run one other one. Print 5//2. We'll run it now. So 5 mod 2 is 1, and 5//2 is 2. So what's going on here? Well, modulus just means what's the remainder if we were to divide 5 by 2? Well, 2 goes into 5 2 times with 1 left over, right? 2 times 2 is 4, and there's 1 left over to give us 5. So this modulus means what's the remainder if I were to divide the 5 by a 2? Well, the remainder is 1. This slash is called integer division. And what that means is, how many times does 2 go evenly into 5? So we can divide 5 by 2 and get 2.5, or we know 5 divided by 2 is 2 with a remainder of 1. 2 goes into 5 twice with 1 as a remainder. And with a combination of these two, we can actually get our division and remainder quite nicely. One last thing is rounding. So what if we had something like 4 divided by 3? Maybe you know what that is already. 4 divided by 3 is 1.33333, etc. And we can go ahead and run this. You can see 4 divided by 3 is 1.33333, a whole bunch of 3's. The computer eventually has to round because there's only so much information it's going to take. But that's a whole lot of decimal places. But let's say we really only needed 2 of these decimal places. Well, there's a very simple solution to that. We're going to type in the word round for rounding, and we'll have a bracket. So we want to round what 4 divided by 3 is, comma, we want to round it to 2 decimal places. Okay, this first bracket is just to finish off with this bracket. So what we're really doing is, I'll put some spaces in here just so it's easier to see. We want to print what we get when we round what 4 divided by 3 is to 2 decimal places. So that's what's going on here. So you have your division right here, and then how many decimal places you want right here. So let's go ahead and run that. And you can see it rounded it to 2 decimal places for us. Now if we want 5 decimal places, we would just change this number to a 5, and we could run it again. And you see we've got 5 decimal places here. So let's do one last example. Now what if we happen to have wanted to round this answer, let's say, to the nearest 10 rather than a decimal place? So this 5 means 5 decimal places. Well, if 2 means 2 decimal places and 1 means 1 decimal place, 0 would mean the nearest whole one, and -1 would mean the nearest 10. So if we change this number to a -1 and we run it again, you can see that this rounded it to 380. It's rounding to the nearest 10. And if we were to change this to -2, it's going to round it to the nearest 100, and so on. So the more negative that we're rounding, it's to the left of the decimal place, more to the left, and the more positive means, like you would expect, the more decimal places that we're getting. Now, of course, remember that we can always do combinations of these mathematical operations. So for example, we can have what is 3 plus 5 divided by 2 times 6? Well, that kind of depends. Remember your BEDMAS, right? Brackets, exponents, etc. If you want to add the 3 and the 5 first, you need to put them in brackets. So 3 plus 5 is 8. Divide 8 by 2, and you get 4. 4 times 6 is 24, so the answer is going to be 24, 24.0, and we're good to go.